John Hughes was already a legend before Home Alone was even conceived. Born in 1950 in Lansing, Michigan, he grew up in a middle-class family in the Chicago suburbs. That environment, those American suburbs, would later become the inspiration for nearly all his films. But few know that Hughes almost never became a filmmaker. Hughes began his career as an advertising copywriter in Chicago. He wrote advertisements but dreamed of more. In 1977, he moved to New York to write for the satirical magazine National Lampoon. His talent was immediately noticed. His humor was sharp yet warm, cynical yet human. He had a gift for bringing ordinary people to life on paper. His breakthrough came with National Lampoon's Vacation in 1983. Hughes wrote the script and suddenly Hollywood opened its doors. What followed was extraordinary. Between 1984 and 1989, Hughes created a series of films that defined a generation and made him a multimillionaire. If you want to discover more about people who heard no after no after no, but kept going and ended up making trillions, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any inspiring success stories. 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, and Some Kind of Wonderful. One after another, the classics came. Hughes had a unique gift. He understood teenagers in a way nobody else did. He took their problems seriously while Hollywood had always portrayed them as caricatures. His films earned hundreds of millions of dollars. The Breakfast Club cost only $1 million to make and brought in $51 million. Ferris Bueller had a budget of $5.8 million and earned $70 million. Hughes became rich, fast, but he wanted more than just teen dramas. He wanted to tell stories for all ages. And then something happened at 30,000 feet that would change everything. In August 1989, Hughes sat on a plane heading to Europe. While flying over the clouds, he worried about his children who had stayed home. What if they were alone? What if someone broke in? That simple fear, that parental panic, became the starting point of something magical. Hughes pulled out his notepad and began writing. Back in America, Hughes literally locked himself in his office. His family brought food to the door. He wrote day and night. 8 days later, he emerged with a complete 120-page script. Home Alone, the story of Kevin McCallister, an 8-year-old boy accidentally left behind when his chaotic family leaves for Christmas vacation to Paris. The script was classic Hughes, humor mixed with heart, chaos combined with real emotion. He understood that the best comedies always have a core of truth. Every child dreamed of complete freedom, of a house without parents and without rules. Every parent knew that deepest fear of losing your child. Hughes offered the script to various studios. Warner Brothers rejected it without much thought. They didn't believe in the potential of a children's film about burglars. Too simple, too predictable, not enough action for a real blockbuster. Other studios doubted too. It seemed too niche or too risky. But 20th Century Fox saw what others missed. They greenlit with a budget of $15 million and appointed Chris Columbus as director. Columbus, who had just made adventures in Babysitting and Heartbreak Hotel, was hungry and talented. He understood Hughes' vision perfectly and knew how to work with child actors. The casting became absolutely crucial. They needed a Kevin who was both vulnerable and smart, sweet but naughty enough to be believable. Hundreds of boys auditioned in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. And then Macaulay Culkin walked into the room, 9 years old, big blue eyes, incredible comedic timing. Columbus had him do a scene and knew immediately. This was Kevin McCallister. Culkin had something special, a natural talent you can't teach. He could make you laugh and seconds later make you cry. But what nobody knew at that moment was that this decision would transform a child into the highest paid child actor in the world within 2 years. For the Wet Bandits, Harry and Marv, they chose Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. Pesci, just nominated for an Oscar for Goodfellas, seemed a bizarre choice for a children's film. An actor known for intense violent roles in a family movie? But his intensity, even in comedy, made Harry Lime both frightening and hilarious. Daniel Stern brought Marv to life with physical comedy, reminiscent of Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. The chemistry between Pesci and Stern was perfect. They were the ideal bumbling duo, threatening enough to create tension but dumb enough to lose to an 8-year-old. Filming began in February 1990 in Winnetka, Illinois, a quiet Chicago suburb. The McCallister house, a beautiful Georgian-style home, became the real fifth main character of the film. That large, warm home represented everything Kevin defended, not just his possessions, but his home, his memories, his family. Columbus worked closely with Hughes on set. Every joke was tested, every trap was planned to perfection. Pesci actually burned his head for certain scenes to make it realistic. Stern underwent painful stunts where he actually broke toes. They wanted the audience to feel every hit, wanted the comedy to be physical and real. But the film needed more than just slapstick. John Williams came in, the legendary composer who had just finished Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Hughes personally convinced him to work on Home Alone. Williams created a soundtrack that completely transformed the film. Somewhere in My Memory became the emotional heart of the film. That simple, enchanting melody gave the film a magical Christmas atmosphere that went far beyond comedy. It was no longer just a film about a child and burglars. It was a Christmas classic in the making, a story about family and belonging. Hughes was involved in everything during production. He rewrote scenes during filming, personally coached actors, refined jokes until they were perfect. His perfectionism was legendary, but sometimes difficult. Some crew members found him demanding, but nobody could deny the result was always brilliant. The film premiered on November 10th, 1990. Initial critic reactions were good but not spectacular. Some found the film charming, others too simple. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars but didn't call it a masterpiece. But then the families came, theaters filled to capacity. Children laughed at the booby traps, parents cried at emotional moments. Week after week, Home Alone remained #1 at the box office. It became the talk of the nation. Everyone had a favorite scene. The scream with hands on cheeks, the tarantula on Daniel Stern's face. Keep the change, you filthy animal. But what happened next, nobody could have predicted, and it would change Hollywood forever. Home Alone closed 1990 as the highest grossing film of the year. Worldwide, the film brought in $476.7 million. For a $15 million budget, that was completely insane. It was the biggest surprise of the year and beat films with much larger budgets and bigger stars. Hughes' personal wealth literally exploded. As writer and producer, he received between 10% and 15% of total profits. Estimates suggest he earned between $30 and $50 million from Home Alone alone in the first year. But the story doesn't stop there. Money kept flowing in for decades. TV rights were sold to networks worldwide for millions per year. VHS tapes flew out of stores, later DVDs, then Blu-rays, now streaming rights. Every Christmas season, the film was rebroadcast on dozens of channels worldwide, and every broadcast brought royalties. Hughes had created a money machine that never stopped running. Macaulay Culkin literally became the world's most famous child actor overnight. At 10, he was on covers of Time magazine, Entertainment Weekly, People. His face was everywhere. For the sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Culkin demanded $4.5 million salary, and without hesitation, Fox paid it. He had become irreplaceable. Home Alone 2 went into production rapidly. Bigger budget of $28 million, same formula, new iconic location in New York. The film brought in $359 million worldwide in 1992. Hughes wrote and produced again. His bank account grew further with tens of millions extra. But Hughes was totally different from other Hollywood types. He categorically refused to move to Los Angeles. He stayed in his house in Illinois, close to his family, close to those suburbs that had inspired all his stories. He didn't drive Ferraris, he didn't throw extravagant parties. His wealth was quiet wealth. At the absolute peak of his fame and success, Hughes did something incredible. He stepped back. In the mid-90s, he completely stopped directing. He focused only on producing and writing, and especially on spending time with his family. He had earned enough money, more than enough. Family was more important. Estimates placed Hughes' total wealth in the late 90s between $150 and $200 million. His films kept constantly earning money. Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck, and of course Home Alone generated income year after year through various channels. Hughes invested smartly and conservatively. Real estate in Illinois, stocks, bonds, no risky investments. He lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. His biggest expense was privacy and time with his wife Nancy and their 2 sons. That's what was truly important to him. Home Alone, meanwhile, became much more than just a film. It became an annual tradition for millions of families worldwide. Every Christmas season, without exception, families tuned in. The film was dubbed in more than 40 languages. In Germany, Japan, France, Brazil, everywhere, Kevin McCallister was a hero to children. The merchandise machine ran at full capacity and never stopped. Toys, board games, video games, clothing, Christmas decorations, even Lego sets. Everything with Kevin's face or the McCallister house sold massively. Hughes had contractually secured a percentage of all merchandise. The film kept generating money year after year, decade after decade. Fox naturally tried to repeat the formula. Home Alone 3 came out in 1997, but without Culkin and without Hughes' direct creative control, it earned $79 million worldwide. Decent but disappointing compared to the first 2. The magic was gone. 2 more direct-to-video films followed that nobody remembers. On August 6, 2009, during a morning walk in Manhattan, John Hughes suddenly had a heart attack. He was only 58 years old. The world lost one of its greatest storytellers far too early. Reactions poured in from the entire entertainment industry. Actors, directors, fans all shared their grief. Hughes' total wealth at his death was estimated at approximately $150 million. His wife Nancy and their 2 sons inherited everything, but his real legacy wasn't financial. It was cultural, emotional, generational. He had made films that touched people, that brought families together, that remained relevant decades later. Home Alone continues to live to this very day. In 2020, during the global pandemic, families again watched the film en masse. That comfort, that nostalgia, that memory of simpler times. The film was still relevant and meaningful 30 years later. The total value of the Home Alone franchise is now estimated at more than $1 billion. Films, merchandise, streaming rights, TV broadcasts, theme park attractions. Altogether, it's one of the most profitable family films ever made, and it all started with a worried thought on a plane.